Hi. So here we are for the second essay of our semester, and this is dealing with the Victorians. Choose one of the following topics and construct an argumentative essay based on research and your own close reading of the primary text. Okay, so we have basically three questions, although the third one is actually pretty wide open. Choose just one of these, right? You're not going to try to write on everything. So here's the first question. How did Robert Browning's concept of dramatic monologue influence subsequent literature in the 20th and 21st centuries? Choose one of his poems from the syllabus and one work from the 20th or 21st century originally written in English in order to make your case. Okay, now this concept of dramatic monologue is key to Robert Browning, and I talk about this in the video that I created for Robert Browning. And of course, the editors of our textbook talk about it quite a bit as well. Nevertheless, just a quick little recap. A monologue, of course, is when one person is speaking, right? Mono, one. It's called a dramatic monologue because this person who's speaking is a character. And in Robert Browning's use of the dramatic monologue, the character is, for, let's just say, our purposes, somewhat unreliable. And in this case, in some ways, it makes actually more realistic, as we all are subjective in our understanding of the experience of the world around us and our place in it. And typically, many of us like to justify our actions and our thoughts. And so we, meaning the reader at this point, the reader reading a poem written in the dramatic monologue form, we have to kind of, and I'll use the expression, read between the lines. In other words, what we hear may not be the real truth. Sometimes it's fibbing, sometimes it's outright lying, sometimes it's just a matter of perspective, that one person has a perspective that differs from other people's perspective. Robert Browning wrote his dramatic monologues in this way. So if you're looking at Fra Lippo Lippi or you're looking at My Last Duchess, right, you see these people's, well, I shouldn't say you see them, you read the monologues of these characters and you go, I wonder a little bit more about that, right? Anyway, so choose one of the poems from the syllabus. There's 4 from the syllabus, right? And one work from the 20th or 21st century. This should be originally written in English, and do a comparison, right? And see how that worked, right? See about the influence, if you will. Okay, second question. How does Elizabeth Barrett Browning, yes, Robert Browning and Elizabeth Barrett Browning were famously married. How does Elizabeth Barrett Browning's Aurora Leigh continue the work started in Mary Wollstonecraft's essay, A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, which of course we looked at last week? How might Barrett Browning also be seen to differ from Wollstonecraft in arguing about the role or roles of women in the 19th century? So the section of Aurora Leigh that we have is just a brief part of the much, much, much longer work called Aurora Leigh. The section we have, I think, really ties very nicely with some of the ideas that Mary Wollstonecraft was talking about, especially about the education of women, or as she might have put it, the miseducation of women, pun intended. The idea being that Wollstonecraft argued, of course, in Vindication, Wollstonecraft argued that women are not properly educated. And if you see women acting silly or hysterical or they lack discipline, it's a large measure because of the values that have been instilled in women as young girls growing up. And that they are not given a good education, a rational education, as Wollstonecraft would have put it. And instead, they're valued for their looks, their beauty, their ability to have scintillating but not very deep conversations, that kind of thing. And Elizabeth Barrett Browning really latches onto this in Aurora Leigh, because Aurora Leigh actually winds up rejecting this. But you can see in the section that we have, really what it illustrates what Wollstonecraft was talking about. So there's a strong connection between these two works. Now the third question, choose one of the Victorian writers, meaning the ones from our syllabus, obviously, not just any old ones. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Robert Browning, Alfred Lord Tennyson, or Matthew Arnold, and one of their works from the syllabus, and write a critique of what that work reveals about a sense of Englishness at the time. A successful essay for this question should first define what the concept means for Victorian England. In other words, Englishness. What do we mean by Englishness in this time period? Okay, that may take a little work, a little research on your own. But, the textbook that we have does give us some help with that. Okay. In other words, what was valued, what they loved, what they feared, what they were insecure about, what they were very secure about. Those kind of things, that's what I'm talking about. Now the paper is due to be submitted to Canvas by Monday, July 15th, 11:59 p.m. Be sure to follow the out-of-class essay guidelines for matters of form and style. Use correct MLA documentation as described in the MLA for Literature class handout or the MLA handbook itself, should you have it. And of course, we do have in our web links links to Purdue OWL and other resources as well. Be sure to include a word count at the end of your essay. Remember, you must meet minimum requirements, including word count, sources, and subject matter. So in other words, I don't want you flying off and writing about something that is not on this prompt. Okay, the prompt is already pretty, in my mind, wide open. No late essays will be accepted without a verifiable medical or legal excuse. Now the minimum requirements. 1,000 to about 1,400 words. You can be a little over that, but I'm not looking for you to write a 3,000 word essay, for example. Citations from at least 4 different sources. One of the sources must be the primary text. So, for example, a poem written by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, right? Aurora Leigh. If you have one of the questions that has 2 primary texts, like the second question with Aurora Leigh and Vindication, right, you have to still have at least 2 more sources from scholarly works, such as peer-reviewed journals, dissertations, university press books. 4th source can be a source of your own choosing, but it must be a credible analytical source in its own right. The textbook counts as a primary text, although you may certainly use editorial materials in your essay. Okay, so again, our textbook is one source. That's it. No matter what you take from it, it still just counts as one. You may have more than these 4 sources, right? I'm not trying to limit you to 4. And of course, as always, MLA format and presentation and documentation, including correct works cited. Okay? Good luck.